Longer, okay?
Yeah.
All right, we are live. Great day, everyone. Welcome to another incredible episode of the Jim Gale Show. Extremely excited to be here. As always, Jim, my good friend, good to see you, buddy. I love your shirt.
You too, Matthew. What a day, what a week, what a year. It's just incredible, everything's going on. Just got done with 2 farm tours at Gale's Landing, and then I flew back to be on this show with Mark, and it's good to be here. It's so many fun things happening at the same time. It's truly mind-blowing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love the impact that the Health Ranger show has had on our awareness into the public. What a great thing that was. And also finding some developers who are very interested in doing collaborations with us and including food forests on all the lots. That's going to be another incredible thing. As this morning I had a conversation with someone who's connected to builders all across the United States. And he actually lives in Florida. The guy's 82 years old. He's going to come see you here soon, Jim.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Those are smart developers, because we have people every day asking if they could buy land at Gale's Landing, and we're sold out. It's just such a no-brainer to turn the land into living land.
It is.
Everybody
Well, it's going to be, it is the no-brainer. It is the thing that we're going to pioneer with these developers and builders to really get it. And it's ultimately going to build the communities of the future, really.
Yep.
Self-sustainable, self-reliant, right?
You know, I was just thinking about that, where you have all these yards in urban green grass with chemical fertilizers to have nice green color, and they're not doing anything with the yard. I mean, you know, the concept is so great. I mean, it's just sometimes hard to believe that nobody thought about that before.
Or the people who thought about it were just laughed at, right? They're like, I mean, or yelled at, or, you know, what do they say? At first, it's ignored. A new idea is first ignored, then it's ridiculed, then it's violently opposed, and then it's taken as just freaking obvious.
Yeah. I remember when I was young, we had Europeans. We had 2 German families on each side of our house. We had an acre. In those days, when you bought a house, you had a lot of land.
Yeah.
And my father just had a field, and it was up on a mountain, didn't do anything. And these 2 Europeans, the whole yard was a garden. And my father used to say, man, they work hard all summer. They work hard all summer. But, you know, they had it right 45 years ago, 50 years ago. I mean, they had it right. They knew that was pristine real estate for them to feed their families. We never did that. I mean, go to the grocery store, buy garbage.
And Mark, so here's the fun part: is you said that they worked harder all summer because they were gardening. That's not the right way. Right?
I know.
The way we're doing it, I walk outside in my landscape at Gale's Landing, and there's no gardening to do, but there's food everywhere.
Yeah, right.
The perennial. That's the difference between the annual and the perennial.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that leads us into, let's just do a quick intro of who you are, Mark, and why you're such a valuable addition to this conversation. Being with your 40 plus years experience as an orthotherapist, working in health and wellness, and then the last, I don't even know 100% how long, where you've been the MudMan. I think it's about the same amount of time, but working with the soil and leveraging the humic fulvic acid, and your business that you built called Humigenics, which came to us through another great friend and partner of ours, Pat Militich. So yeah, thank you for joining us and welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, I just had a hard time saying that it's 40 years already, you know, because time flies, but, you know, having fun and creating wellness. And then, you know, when I started 40 years ago, it was in the wellness business as an orthotherapist trying to get rid of pain. And I stumbled on this German guy who had this mud, and he was wrapping these people up. And I actually went to their spa in Germany, and they were wrapping these people and doing mud baths and for people that had arthritis and rheumatism. And that was my trade. That was my specialty. And after 2 hours, they'd walk out without crutches and wheelchairs. And I said, wow, this is great stuff. What the hell's in there? Yeah. You know, you start doing research, and then of course you develop, you understand the humic fulvic component of this earth, which has therapeutic values aside from agriculture. But if you look at human beings and plants, we're made up of the same stuff. I mean, you know, it to me, when I first started in developing, and I wanted to bottle this stuff. So that was kind of crazy, because who's going to put mud in a bottle and sell it to people? That was a crazy idea. And so that small little village where I used to live, they used to point fingers at me and they used to say, "That's the MudMan. That's the MudMan." So it became an acronym, and my employees started, you know, getting license plate and birthday cakes with MudMan, and my email became the MudMan, and just became the MudMan. And in that small village, and somebody wanted to know where I lived, they say, "Where's the MudMan?" And they say, "Well, he's on 38 Industrial, or he's on 740 Route 400, and you go see him." And it just became an acronym, and I enjoy that, because from starting from scratch, where, you know, the bank didn't even give me any money because I thought it was crazy bottling mud. Well, that first year we did $500,000 in the spa industry, and it went into 83 countries and 89 products, and developing wellness products for the human beings. And then I used to take the scrap. I used to take the rest of the peat, and I used to put it in my yard, in my garden, and it was just dabbling in there. And I said, one day maybe we can go into agriculture, and here we are today, where we're now able to educate people on what humic fulvic is, not only on the human beings but on the plant world, and why you need fulvic and humic in your soils to make sure that whatever the plant gives you the best fruit and the best result and the best yield that you can have.
Oh, I love it. So Pat sent me several bags, and we put it right in our compost tea. And we now, like 14 months ago, we started with blank canvas of sand. And now we have this incredibly diverse and thriving food forest. Yeah. And we stacked humic fulvic and compost tea and analemma water. And that's the basics of it. And everybody says, "How is this possible?" And I'm like, it's nature. When you give nature the tools it needs, it does the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. So you know, the fulvic and humic is a byproduct of decomposing plants. Yeah. And it comes from a peat or a swamp or a bog, whatever you want to call it. You know, we have lots of peatlands in Canada where it's swampy, and nobody really appreciates that land. You know, when I first discovered peat from Germany, and I started researching the peatlands in Canada, I used to go to farmers. "I want to buy your land. I want to buy 50 acres of this swampland." "Go right ahead. I'll give it to you." They didn't have the value. I knew what the value was, because if we extract this peat and extract the fulvic and start using it, then it's gold. And that's why the company was called Golden Moor back in the days. You know, it was gold mud. But it's really a decomposing process of plants that took the energy from the sun while they were living. They created their leaves and trees and branches, and when they die off in this bog, they just keep decomposing in a compost environment, away from oxygen. And as you go deeper down into the bog, this is where you get the biochemical compounds of carbon. And we know carbon has all the minerals that plants need. And so whether you fertilize these soils for 50 years, I mean, my grandfather, we come from a farming industry, and I talk to my cousin now that owns the farm. They were fertilizing with chemicals for over 70 years in the soils. So of course you deplete not only the minerals, but you also deplete the fulvic and humic content of that field. There's nothing left. And so whatever you're putting in the field, you're putting nutrients bought chemically to enhance the plant, and we're eating that stuff. Oh, for me, you know, it's mud. It'd be, I'm not going to drink mud, or I'm not going to put mud in. But it actually, when you know that humic and fulvic is an important component for growth, to sustain life, then, you know, now you know what you know, and you're aware of it. Now you can actually say, "Oh, I need that stuff. I need it for me, and I need it for my plants."
Yeah. I've taken baths with it. Pat Miltich suggested, and then I drank it. And I tell you, I feel amazing. I love this stuff. So tell us some of the kind of the studies or the different comparisons that you found over the years of results that you've got.
The particles in this bog in the humic part, because that's the black part. Fulvic is like a yellowish brownish when you extract it from humic. But our product has both humic and fulvic. And the humic part is all of the plant nutrients, all the decomposing plant matter into a carbon molecule. So you have all your trace minerals. All of them are there. There's over 70 different types of trace minerals that are found in the carbon particle. Yeah. And so that's when you fertilize your soil with this product, you're putting back into the soil organic minerals. Now, in the soil, you also have inorganic minerals. And that's where the fulvic comes in, because the fulvic is an adaptogen. It actually binds the nutrients that are in the soil, either organic or inorganic, and they give it to the plant. But they also transform inorganic minerals into organic minerals for the plant. Wow. That's why you need both of them. You can't just use humic or just use fulvic. You need to have both, because the humic is the nourishment and the fulvic is the adaptogen, the connector, the one that absorbs into the plant.
Mm.
Wow.
That's fascinating stuff.
Now, you can there's different applications. You can put directly in the root, you can put it directly in the soil, or you can actually spray it. There are different ways of doing it. But the product will actually increase the ability to absorb nutrients that it's in the soil already. So if you already have a very, very abundant soil, your plants are going to yield a lot more because it helps the absorption of nutrients, right? Yeah. Mm. But if you lack those minerals, you will still have a good yield of the plant. If you're going into a yard and they say they've been fertilizing for 50 years, you got to put humic fulvic to have that yield and to have that result that you want, even in the first year. That's very important. It gets rid of disease. It prevents disease, a plant to create a disease, because like the human body, the plant has an immune system. And by giving that nutrient effect of fulvic and humic, it creates that homeostasis of absorbing these nutrients and creating their immune system very strong. So, you're not going to be affected by any plant world or diseases that these might have.
Yeah. We had some plants that had different black mold and different white mold, different types of stuff on it. And I noticed everything is coming back now. And we've had several applications of humic fulvic, humigenics with compost tea, and it's all starting to come back like really beautifully. You can see the new leaves are coming back just crisp and perfect.
Right. And the fulvic reduces the mold producing too a little bit, because you don't want that, because the pH is between 7 and 9, and plants grow into the 5 to 6% pH, right? So it actually counterbalances the too much mold and too much dryness. It really is a balancer also. So that's an important component of fulvic humic also. It also increases photosynthesis. So photosynthesis is the ability of the plant to absorb the light, and transform it into chlorophyll, in the green matter that plants need. Now, if they have less nutrients in the soil, you can spray the fulvic and humic on the plant to enhance the photosynthesis from the leaves of the plant. That's why we also recommend that you put it in the soil in the spring, but you also spray the foliage on a regular basis to increase the photosynthesis.
How often would be a regular basis for that?
Every week.
Okay.
At least once a week.
Gotcha.
And at the same time, when you're spraying it, you're covering the foliage of humic and fulvic, right? So you're creating that protective layer to reduce the disease levels. But you're also increasing the oxygen level of the plant. The more adaptogen particles that fulvic creates in the plant, the more the plant can create and absorb oxygen. And the more oxygen, hydrogen, oxygen, same thing as a human body. The fulvic splits those molecules and creates more oxygen. And so the plant grows higher, the root goes deeper in the soil. Guess what? The fruit or whatever the plant bears, you will have a better yield.
Yeah. Cool.
That's how
I'm going to start spraying more. it's just so exciting to see the return on that time invested is amazing. The amount of energy. And then, of course, once you got the plants in there that build soil and you got the comfrey and the legumes and the different chop and drop plants, then it starts going on its own. I imagine with all of the destroyed farmlands out there, and isn't this perfect for large application for farmland?
Absolutely. We sell, bulk bags, we sell tons to farmers, and they either do it in the spring when they rotate the soil, or they do it in the fall when the crop is done. They just spread it on the soil so that winter months and the hibernation months, that humic fulvic particle has the ability to go into the soil and degrade the soil. It breaks it down even further.
Cool.
So either the spring or the fall, you spread it in your field. It's recommended.
Do you have farmers had a history of this where they can show the difference in yield, maybe compared to the more toxic fertilizers?
The mentality of farmers is still fertilizing with chemicals. They're paying $220 a kilo. I don't know how do you say it in pounds, but it's 220 a ton. Sorry, and then what we're talking about fulvic is about $60. We're saving them money, but the mentality is they think that by spraying chemicals on their field, they're going to get a better yield. So what we've tried to do in the last year is convince a farmer in their 1,000 acres, give us 10, give us 20 acres, and let us just do a test on 20 acres, right?
Yeah.
Well, we got a few farmers like that. So we did 20 acres on their, and then we did, real yield research at the end with an agronome and everything. And our 20 yielded over 3% more than their fertilized field.
While building soil, and they're depleting soil.
Correct. So, but even after that, the fertilizing industry, the big pharma of farms, is so powerful that they are still forced, and they have not committed to giving us their whole 1,000 acres. How crazy is that?
It's part of the programming of our whole destructive system, but it's changing fast. And now we've got some results that we can show. Now there's a show, it's called 100,000, 100,000 beating hearts. Have you seen that one?
No.
So what on YouTube, you can go up on YouTube and it's 100,000 beating hearts, and it's Dr. Mercola. It's Dr. Mercola's site. And I'm halfway through the show, but it's a farmer that used those poisons for a generation and a half, and he decided after his father passed to go with natural solutions. And it's just amazing because instead of depleting the land and hating the feeling of what he was doing, he's now very happy, and the land is regenerating, and it builds over time too, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's the magic of it. 1 year might be 3%, but you're also building soil. So the next year might be compounded, might be 5 or 10%, and then more and more and more over time.
They noticed they were doing soya fields, and we did corn fields. Well, the corn plants were about 2.5 feet higher than the ones fertilized with chemicals. Wow. And the root system, I have pictures. Maybe I should have brought pictures, but the pictures of the roots were just out of this world. And we also did a tomato field, and the yield on the tomatoes, the size of the tomatoes were just out of this world. And the farmer couldn't even believe it. And we only did, I think, 10 acres for this farmer. Yeah. And so it's just a matter of going back to the olden days where they had no fertilizers. I remember my grandfather, they used to do cow manure and refertilize that way but they were actually using peat moss up in northern Ontario to fertilize their field. Here in Prescott Russell, the farmers have 3 crops. They keep one for their cows, and they sell the other 2 up to farmers that need them, because the soil here because of the Champlain Ocean, it left this huge basin of peat moss. So yeah, you have acres of black earth soil full of humic and fulvic, and so their soil keeps replenishing because they go down 15, 20 feet.
Yeah.
And so it's very rich in humic and fulvic, and they have excellent crops here. I mean, all the farmers here are millionaires because they sell off their crops.
Yeah.
And then that's why when we go to them, they're actually fertilizing with chemicals in those fields.
Wow.
Because of just the way of mentality of modern farming became. But it's shifting, like you said. I mean, there's some young farmers, who grew up in the 90s and 2000 or taking up the farms. They're more open to changing and switching and trying different ways of getting better yield. It's coming. It's coming.
Do they get subsidies to use the chemicals?
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah, they get financed.
They get financed by the chemical company?
Yeah, the farm credit finances the fertilizing season. As for us, if we sell $20,000 fulvic to a farmer, well, we got to get paid.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the other difference, because they spend $150,000 in fertilizers for the month of April. They're out in the field right now. They're fertilizing and they're seeding, but $150,000 in 1 month just to pay for fertilizer, that's a lot of money.
And hasn't that gone up like a lot in the last 2 years?
Yeah, it went up from 160 to 220 a ton. It's $80. But that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Wow. Went up $80 per additional ton, or per ton. Sorry.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and then that's Monsanto.
But yeah.
The same company that owns the finance company that owns they own the medical system. They control the whole thing. So
co-ops, the regional co-ops and farm credit, they're in it together. It's just like big pharma for human beings. The pharmaceutical industry and the governments and they're all in together. I mean, it's very hard to break. Very, very hard to break. Where we have better luck is organic farmers.
Yeah.
The small mom pop shops, the couple who bought land, 50 acres, and they're growing 10 acres of organic field. They're not funded. It's hard for them. I mean, just try to sell their crop at the end of the year, so they have to wait a certain amount of time and they have no revenue. We've helped quite a few of those just because we wanted to see the yield at the end of the year. But a concept like where people can actually see a difference in their investment in creating a rich soil in their backyard to be able to produce abundance.
Yeah.
That is a great idea. To me, it's just amazing.
Yeah, it really is the way forward. It's so simple. When we turn our lawns, when we take out the poisons and grow food instead of lawns, well, we solve all the world's biggest problems.
Yeah.
It's so simple.
Yeah. And so are you prepared? Because what's going to happen over the next 18 months is the world is going to wake up at scale. This is the Great Awakening. We're in the midst of it. We're at the precipice of it. It's going to go exponential. And we have a plan to really help that happen at scale. And so are you ready? Because pretty soon, most farmers are going to make a switch in the next couple of years.
Yeah, we are. I mean, we the bog is pretty huge. It's 45 kilometers long. I mean, we extracted 120 tons last year, when we had the other company. So we're well prepared, and we sell it in package. I can sell you a truckload right now. It's not a problem. But we have the truckloads for farmers in pallet size and in totes. You can buy it in totes and for fields. But the humigenics concept was in home, in the yard. So you have 625 grams of this fulvic. You can use it inside your plants, your flowers, and your garden, and that's the big thing, where it's actually accessible for the human consumption to actually bring it home and not buying it in big bags like the fertilizers in the co-ops.
Yeah, that's what Gale's utilizing that on everything that we're growing here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Even in the winter. I mean, when you bring your plants in, maybe not the perennials, but the plants that you want to keep in the house.
Yeah.
Even fine herbs and those types of plants, you can keep them going all winter with fulvic because it's nourishment, it's food.
Yeah. And when people use it on the outside of their body, does it pull toxins out of the system as well?
Of course.
Yeah.
One of the main benefits is chelators of heavy metals. So,
Oh, really?
yeah. So when you take either you put it on your skin or you take a mud bath, or even for plants, I mean, plants can absorb toxins from the atmosphere.
Yes.
Fulvic will act as a chelator for plants also. But if you have heavy metal content, vaccine injuries, whatever we want to talk about, chronic disease that you develop with years of different lifestyle, the chelation property is very, very important because fulvic is very, very, very small, and it has that ability to go into the cell membrane and capture the heavy metal in the cell membrane. But it also has energy. So it actually activates the mitochondria of every cell and increase energy. And that's through the oxygen it has in fulvic. So, the ability to absorb, because it's a negative ion, remove it from your body, and the ability to increase energy through the mitochondria is one of the most powerful benefits of fulvic.
So cool.
Yeah, it is so cool.
I love it.
It has the anti-inflammatory benefit where it stimulates production of your own endorphins. So instead of taking medical drugs or the pharmaceutical drugs that actually destroys your digestive system, the humic and fulvic component stimulates the production of your own endorphins through your adrenal glands. When you take a mud bath and you raise the water temperature higher than your body, you have osmosis in your skin. The skin is the largest skin of the body. So if you want to treat your body, treat it with the skin.
Yeah.
But when you do a full submersible mud bath, that we're doing that back in the 60s and 70s in Europe. I mean, it's a well-known therapy over there. But you can do it in the privacy of your own home with that particular stuff. You can take the humogenics and put 20 grams of that in your tub and lay in it. You're going to absorb the nutrients, but you're also going to chelate the heavy metal. And if you raise the water temperature higher than your body, then you're detoxing. So you can actually do a detox protocol for a month or two just with that product. And you're going to lose, 15, 20 pounds. You're going to get rid of heavy metal. You're going to increase your energy. You're going to increase your oxygen. You're going to produce more collagen. Your skin is going to be more subtle, like elastic. Hell, who doesn't want that?
Exactly. I've done it several times. It's so fine and it's so soluble. The water turns dark, right? Immediately. And
that was the trick back in the days where we really refined the product. It used to be real mud. I mean, my first batch, I gave it to my mom. I just want to make sure she wouldn't have any problems. She would try anything I would do. But I gave her the mud bath, and she came back the next day and she says, "Mark, I really enjoyed the bath." But she said, "You might want to get rid of the leaves and the branch that float in the
Oh, that's awesome. Well, buddy, I love it. I'm Matthew, and you please keep chatting. I've got to jump off and do this amazing day's worth of activities. But man, I love your product, and we're going to continue to advocate for it. So thanks for everything you're doing.
Thank you very much, Jim.
All right, buddy. See you, Matthew.
Hey, see you, buddy. Have a great day, Jim. Yeah. So lots of incredible things have occurred on your journey here. You've shared some great stories with me so far.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there's any willingness to touch on some experiences that you've had over the years, some of the highs, some of the lows that are most memorable for you on this journey. I'd love to just dive into some of your personal experience and the wins along the way, and even some of the failures.
Yeah. Well, I was always a firm believer of holistic health. And I remember when I was very young, I used to give massages to my grandmother, and she says, "You have therapeutic hands." And I was 8 years old. And so I always knew that I wanted to help people. I didn't know how. I remember in high school, in my yearbook, I wanted to be a psychologist. And then, I went to psychology school and got a bachelor's degree in psychology, and I majored in children's education. But it wasn't what I wanted. And all of a sudden, my mother had an aesthetic school, and she was teaching aesthetics, and they were only treating the face. And she said to me one day, "We have to treat the whole body." She said, "I'm going to hire you to go out and find some products to do body treatments." But that was back in the early 80s. And so we stumbled upon this gentleman in Drummondville who was actually doing mud wraps with this peat, this black mud. And we brought him to the school, and he did an introduction of this product. And his wife had wrote a book on nutrition, and I fell in love with his concept. And he says, I asked him, "How do you become an orthotherapist?" He says, "You come to my school." And so I trucked to Drummondville for 3 years, taking his course, and I became an orthotherapist. And from there, I opened my clinic, and I started treating people in Ottawa. And back then, holistic health was alternative medicine.
Yes.
You know, you had to have long hair and wear clogs and, you know, all that type of person, right? And I wasn't that type of person. I was really hands-on. And so I was taking my mother's clinic, paid clients who had waxing and facials and all that. And I started doing orthotherapy treatments. And whole and behold, everybody had pain. Everybody had certain ailments that were based on musculoskeletal problems. And I opened up 3 clinics and doing very well. But the scientific community, the chiropractors, the doctors were killing me because they brought some RCMP officers, and they photographed my clinic and my protocol, and then they charged me for practicing illegal medicine. Charged $20,000 back in 1990, and I lost. And then I asked the judge for a little bit of leeway, and he gave me 10 years to pay off the 20 grand. And back in 1994, Bob Ray was the NDP leader in Ontario, passed the Regulated Health Professions Act. And that enabled us to be holding ourselves up as holistic practitioners, just as long as we don't practice, medicine and all that, which we weren't. But at least that gave us the opportunity to come out of the closet. And when that happened, I started developing the mud business, because I knew that everybody that came to my clinic, I was giving them some mud in a Ziploc bag. And I would tell them, go home, take a couple of baths, and come back Wednesday. It was just in a Ziploc bag, because I was doing that in my garage. I was grinding and doing all just personal recipes. Okay. And I was selling 200 of these bags every month. And I said, well, maybe we can bottle this stuff. And that's where the idea came. And so put a business plan together to go to the bank. And one of the highlights of my professional life was going to the bank. You're so excited about your business. You're going to make everybody happy and make millions of dollars. And you go to the bank and they start laughing at you, because nobody's going to give you money to bottle mud. You're in a farming community. We'll give you money for tractors or bulldozers, but they're not going to give money for a guy who wants to bottle mud. So I was kind of discouraged. But my mother and my father-in-law believed in my project, and they gave me a $75,000 loan, and the rest is history. I founded a company called Golden Moor, and we started bottling in the Pine Bath in small and large bottles, and we're selling pails of this mud to therapists who were actually doing mud wraps for arthritis, rheumatism, and skin conditions. And we grew with the spa industry, and then we developed different products. We had over 89 products, and that expansion was the highlight of my career, where I brought the company public, and it was doing very well. We were in 80 some countries, and I was traveling the world, and everybody's happy. And then in 2008, the market crashed, and lost everything on the stock market, and went bankrupt. And so that's you go from a great level of success to having $24 in your bank account on August 2010 and declaring bankruptcy. And so, you kind of go into hiding, and you say, well, how can I reinvent myself? I said, you don't have to reinvent yourself. Shit happens in life. Yeah. You just got to, roll up your sleeves and do it again.
Yeah. Get back at it.
And that's what I did. And so, I developed a liquid formula that you're going to actually drink it. It was called NuWater, NuWTR. Yep. And it was a liquid that you put in water, you drink it, because
I remember seeing that and trying it.
Right. And then you had all those benefits that I talked to you about earlier, the
Yeah.
the electrolytes, the energy, the chelation, the hormone balancing. So people would actually take it for energy. So before the gym or going out for a walk, and it was doing very well.
Yeah.
We developed an online business, a network marketing business, and we went from new water to black oxygen organics because new water, people were saying neutered. They thought it was a neutering product. They didn't like the name because they were saying it's neutered. Well, we changed the name, and we changed it to black oxygen organics, which was representing it's black gold, and it creates oxygen, and it comes from an organic source. And then we launched that business for 5 years, and we were in 13 countries and doing very, very well. And then you were very successful. We're doing $4 million a month of sales.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then?
and then the woke society came up, and hate groups came up, and it started destroying our reputation by saying that the fulvic and the humic was making them lose their hair and losing their teeth and getting sick. And then that whole thing blew up to having people actually calling Health Canada and the FDA and saying that they have adverse effects on our products. And so, when you start having that, I created New Water in 2015, and I sold it for 5 years without any complaints. Not one complaint with Health Canada. And when that happened, 220 calls in one day to Health Canada.
That sounds like a coordinated effort.
That was a coordinated effort.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so, it was detrimental. We couldn't stop it. The hate, the evilness in the world took over. Even though after 30 years of taking it myself 3 times a day and taking mud baths on a regular basis and healing so many. I mean, I treated 5,000 patients for arthritis and rheumatism with great result. Skin problems, cancer. We can't say that because, we can't say it on publicly because we're not doctors, but I'm an orthotherapist and naturopathic doctor. At one point, I'm able to say certain things that are allowed to say, instead of not just a consumer saying, oh, my cancer was healed. So they started saying on the positive effect, I healed my cancer and all that, and they're not supposed to say that. So whether we do good or we do bad, we're lost. I mean, we couldn't absolutely do anything. The FDA recalled our products. There was an issue with high levels of arsenic and lead in our products, which is normal because product comes from a carbon molecule. But we have a research from the McGill University that states that when lead and arsenic is tied to a carbon molecule, it's harmful. It's not harmful for human beings. And
inert.
But yeah, exactly. But levels of lead in our modern society, it's all becomes an inorganic structure. It comes from inorganic pollution.
Yeah.
Peat comes from an organic source. So when it's tied to the carbon source, it's not harmful.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I mean, if it was harmful, people would have died 30 years before.
Yes.
Black oxygen organics. Hello.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that was the whole story, and I couldn't fight that because they wouldn't accept the research from McGill University. Maybe it came from Canada, but the FDA, fell on their research. They said, we had a too high level of lead. Recall the products. Well, we had 25,000 pouches on the marketplace, and then Canada was shut down, and so you went from $4 million to $500,000 a month in sales. We couldn't reimburse, and then it was just impossible. We were done, lost everything. We had millions of dollars of inventory lost. They seized everything. We lost everything within 3 weeks. We were shut down. Couldn't do anything.
Well, and
it was so hard for us. That happened in November 2 years ago, and Carlo, my business partner, we worked so hard, 100 hours a week building this business and going on Zooms and educating people and being happy to help people in their health issues. And then that happened to you, and you say, why is it happening to me? You're trying to realize, well, there are certain things in life that you have to learn from mistakes and from those bad experiences. You always learn from those experiences. you never experience from your success. You always learn from your bad experiences.
Yep. So,
And one of the things that we didn't do right was to actually have compliance, to make sure that people, what they were saying, they were actually saying the right thing.
yes.
And so, they had over 80,000 people saying medical things that the product would do, which the FDA or even Health Canada doesn't allow. You can't.
Yeah, they don't. And why? And here's the interesting thing. Why don't they allow that stuff? Well, part of it is because they've been lobbied hard enough by another organization with vested interest in ensuring that we can't heal ourselves.
Correct.
And because of that, they come after things that are actually truly helping people heal.
Correct.
Whereas what their space is all about is a repeat customer because of covering up a symptom.
Yeah.
And what happens when someone is using those products that these other organizations, also known as Big Pharma, made by chemicals that they can patent, right? Yeah. They may synthesize a organic material and figure out how to mimic it chemically and then produce these things that people then utilize. And when they have a symptom pop up from this thing that they're using, they take another thing, another drug to hide this other symptom. And unfortunately, they're so powerful, the money, the resources, the amount of lobby power, they're having laws be passed in their favor and actually not in the favor of us, the people. And then you got the other side of it where you've got these intermingling of someone who worked for the company over here and then all of a sudden goes and gets a nice little cushy job as a regulator on this side, and then they're all friendly with one another. So the regulator does fancy footwork to make sure the product gets through just right, with zero liability and all these fancy things that they've been able to put together over the years because of their lobbying power. So the conflicts of interest are massive. It's plain as day if you look at it, except it's easy to keep it hidden because most people are too busy to look.
That's right. And then when you start making noise, that's where, when I was in my little town and dealing in Canada and, dealing in my own little environment, I made a lot of noise because I was out of the ordinary. I was shaking on holistic health, and, disease doesn't come from within. You actually catch it. You thought it comes from within and you can't catch it. People say, oh, I caught cancer, or I caught arthritis, and I said, the education is you develop it. You're not born with cancer. You develop it. Right. And it's part of, your mindset, but also your lifestyle and the way you're born with a certain, you're born with a certain immune system and a health component. And then as you grow older, you either gain or you lose, depending on the lifestyle you have and the way you eat and all that. And so it's holistic. It's a combination of things that you do that keeps you healthy and going.
Yes.
And I'm the living proof where there's some years I couldn't care less of my life and my health. And I was just, out there, hustling and become, successful. And then you realize, you got to come back to a balanced life. So it's all about balance. It's the same thing with this business where I was saying to people, it's not all about money. It's not about it. It's a balanced life. And so in me saying things in my little environment, and you spread it out in the world, especially in the United States, it became a loud voice, and people didn't like that. And that's where you get a couple of people that don't like you. They start these hate groups on Facebook, and it goes viral. You can't stop. I personally experienced the elimination of myself.
Canceled.
Cancel culture is unbelievable.
Yeah, you were canceled.
This hate group, and they were saying that my product was toxic. But that girl who was doing videos of me dyed her hair blue, pink, and blue. And I said to them, well,
that's good for you.
Using chemicals to dye her hair. And here I am promoting an organic product to give you health. It didn't make any sense in my mind, but I couldn't stop it. I couldn't stop it, Matt. It was
Well,
impossible.
I could tell you that there's high likelihood that she had some chemical issues going on inside of her that were causing some issues, maybe even creating some rage and anger inside. Those chemical imbalances can do a funny thing. And unfortunately today, I would say everybody in the Western world has chemical issues inside because of the sheer amount of chemicals that are in our air, our water, our food, all of our environment, in our house, on our clothes, on our beds, on everything. All of those chemicals fuck with your chemicals, your natural chemicals.
Absolutely.
And because of that, we've got issues. Our chemical systems are not working well. Our hormonal, right? When I'm saying chemicals, I'm meaning our hormones are not functioning properly because of the chemical interference from the outside. And that is creating a tsunami of issues that are going unaddressed. And people, the mass of the population is completely unaware of what is happening because of the chemical bombardment.
Yeah, they are completely unaware. And our job is to give them that awareness. And that's why, when we shake trees, we bother people. When we're marginal people like I am, I'm a marginal person when it comes to health and wellness. And, even in my family, I mean, it's hard because you're kind of the black sheep. You're a black sheep. And when you're at my...
I don't say black sheep, I say leader.
Yeah, of course. But for them, I'm the black sheep,
Yeah, I get it.
But then
I'd be that guy too.
Through the years, you're successful and your health. I look at myself today and I look at my family. Oh my God. I mean, the lifestyle they lived. I mean, they're overweight. They take 3, 4, 5 medications every day. They have high blood pressure. I don't have anything of that.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't take any medication. And because it was a lifestyle that I lived for many, many years, and I keep doing it,
Yeah. I spoke with an 82-year-old today who's still working. He's still completely mobile. He's on 0 medication. He eats only a plant-based diet, 100% organic, grows lots of it himself. And he's like, everybody else around me is sick. And I keep telling him, but nobody wants to listen. And here we are, He's like, for the past 5 years, I don't even say anything anymore. Everybody just complains to me about how they're sick. And then while they're complaining, they're shoving a Twinkie in their mouth or a box of chips or crackers or something that is not alive. And they wonder why they're not doing well. And he's like, I don't even say anything. I only talk to people who actually ask me, because everybody else is completely closed-minded to it and oblivious. They'd much rather complain, feel sick, get a drug, repeat, and never actually heal their system.
No, I know.
And, it's no wonder their health is plummeting. Hey, just look at what just went on, right? Over the past 3 years, we had a global health emergency, and the majority of people who passed from this global health emergency weren't walking around as the pristine models of health and wellness. They were walking around with 4 comorbidities or more, and that was the average 4. That's crazy. That just tells you right there, the people who are dying from this thing are already dying. They're already sick and dying. They're just not dead yet.
We're listening to overweight public health officials.
Oh, is it? How's that for cognitive disconnect, right?
Give me a break.
Here's the public health person who's 250 pounds when they should be walking around at 130. Like, something doesn't add up here. And why are you giving any of us advice on how to live well? And second, why is anybody listening? I don't get it. But again, that's trust the experts, Mark, right? The talking head gets to say that, and then we're supposed to follow along. And unfortunately, though, because there's so much of that obesity issue, people's brains are turning to fat. They are, right? When you're clinically obese, you're extremely overweight. You lose your abilities in many ways to function properly.
Of course.
You can't think well. You don't get enough. I'm telling you right now, if you're obese, your breathing is impacted. So you're not getting enough oxygen into your system,
Exactly.
right? Your circulatory system is not moving well. You're not getting enough oxygen to your brain.
Yeah.
So I know, how can we expect, if our population, call it 40% clinically obese today, 60+% overweight, no wonder we have health problems.
Yep.
No wonder the United States had 25% of the world's deaths from COVID when they have 4% of the world's population.
Yeah.
Something doesn't add up, right? But we're one of the most obese countries on the planet. And oh, by the way, pharma is also one of the most powerful things inside that country that is able to lobby that government to make laws favor them, not us.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy when you think about it. And 90% of the people followed that. That's the thing. That
because they don't think about it.
Well, they don't think about it. They just follow. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why. Because they're the white sheep and they just go along with it. And I hate to use that word, but the analogy fits so well. They are literally just following along because someone else said to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And
so
I think a really important thing for everybody today is to stop listening to others in that way and listen to a bunch and then analyze it. Take the information from multiple sides, and then you look at all of it, evaluate it, and then make a logical choice. And you also have to look at who, the picture is very broad, meaning you have to look who benefits, right? Qui bono. Follow the money. And when you stand back and you analyze those pieces of it, it's very plain to see that there's an issue with regulatory agencies. There's an issue with governments because of lobbying, and there's an issue with big corporations because their interest is with the shareholder, not with you.
That's correct.
And that makes a perfect storm for whether they're trying to do it from a corruption standpoint or not. It makes the perfect storm for corruption to happen.
Correct. Yeah.
And for things to be done that are not in the population's best interest, but instead in the best interest of those who benefit.
Yep. And then that's basically what happened to us. I mean, we weren't
exactly what happened.
We were canceled. Exactly what you just talked about.
Yep.
They didn't want us to do good to people. And I still honestly say today, to my date, I stand by my products and I still use it. I got thousands of people calling me, can I get some more stuff? It's always difficult because, I know I had good stuff. And,
Hey, I love it. I use it. Wife loves it. She uses it. Kids love it. They use it.
Yeah. And then, you're not dying. And so,
actually, the complete opposite. I feel better.
After that, I think that eventful year, I took it off and wrote a book.
Yeah.
And I wrote a book on my business experience after 35 years and starting.
You have a copy of the book nearby? You can show everybody.
Yeah. That's a book.
There we go.
It's available on Amazon. If you go to book section on Amazon and you Google the MudMan, it's there. So, I talk about the fascination of Mother Earth. It's my life story. I've been at it since I'm back in 1987. So I was pretty young then. And I still believe in Mother Earth. I still take care of Mother Earth. I still use Mother Earth. And I know fulvic and humic brings to humanity the ability to stay healthy. And I will continue talking about it. I will continue being an advocate of humic and fulvic because I find that's my mission. And that's the reason I'm here. And I will continue it. But I'm also talking about resilience because, from starting a mud bath business, you need the resilience. To going bankrupt and coming back, you need resilience. To lose a multi-million-dollar company, you need resilience. To lose 3 families, you need resilience. And resilience is the acronym of never quit. 98% of your success in end life is to never quit. And I don't quit. Whether you can shoot me down, I'm going to come back up. And they brought me down 2 years ago. It was hard. It took me a while to come back up. I suffered the poor me syndrome maybe for 3 months, but once I shook it up, I mean, I got to come back. And we're coming back strong in the agricultural, because plant matter is important to me because it's Mother Earth. But to bring in different products for the human consumption, it's coming back, and it's going to be important because we're going to be well prepared. We're going to have better science behind it. We're going to work with independent formulator. It's not just going to be me saying, okay, we're advocating this bog that's in Castlemaine, Ontario, and it's beside the nuclear reactor and a dump site. I mean, they're so crazy, all these things they were saying about it. But lo and behold, we still have the ability to bring to market a fantastic product that the humans can actually consume at the same time. Even humigenics. I mean, you give it to plants. You can't be scared of giving it to you. It's not chemicals. Your fingers are not going to burn.
Yeah, well, and that's another thing that's important to know, right? Whatever you spray on your plants comes into your body. Like whatever is in the farmer's field that they're spraying on that stuff, you are pretty foolish if you don't think it's being brought into you too.
We're spreading chemicals, and you think about what you just said. The plants absorb it, and then we eat it, and then everybody's happy about that. But then you come with an organic matter, and you say you drink it, and people get sick to it. They actually believe it. It's just mind-boggling for me. It was mind-boggling to see my company go down because a few haters threw out the fact that we had lead and arsenic in the product, and it was bad for human beings. When in last 30 years, I was giving it to my patients locally, and none of them died.
Well, not even died. It was the opposite. They improved their health.
And that's what my mom and my sister were saying. Mark, you know who you are. You know what you did, and you know the products. I said, you got to come back. You got to keep doing it. You kick yourself in the ass and say, okay, let's do it again.
Hey, man, that's doing what's right.
Yeah,
right. That's making the choice to do what's right.
And the best thing I know to do is to share the knowledge that I have with Mother Earth, and the knowledge that I have in orthotherapy and holistic health, and that knowledge, the experience. I mean, 23 years in a clinic treating 5,000 patients a year. That's worth something.
Yeah.
Studying the essential oils and the plant matters and developing products that comes from Mother Earth, to me, and protecting Mother Earth.
That's called clinical experience, right? That's clinical like that's proof. That's actual real world proof.
Yeah.
Results. And unfortunately, it goes against that counter narrative.
So anyways, your viewers can definitely try Humigenics on their products as a product. It's a great product, inside, outside, in the garden, on their grass, even for the changing the environment of your yard into an abundant creator of food. It's a great product to have in the lineup of things you need in your garden.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, again, thank you so much for sharing your story and for being so open and candid with the audience and for sticking with it on your journey, man. 40 years of belief in yourself and what you're doing, helping, healing people, leading people to a better way. And today, now focusing on soil health, which we know is a direct correlation to the health of the plant, which means the healthier food that's produced by the plant, which means healthier human.
Correct.
So you're taking it back to the roots, which is great, right? Taking it back to the roots and making true impact in people's health by focusing on the right place, truly.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me and letting me share my story and the power of fulvic and humic.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can continue.
Absolutely, we will. And our business, Food Forest Abundance and Freedom Farm Academies, are definitely promoting the products.
Yes.
We love it. We are big supporters. We love what we've been able to do. So anybody watching here today, go run over to humigenics.com, use the extension FFA on that. And that way we'll know everything's coming back through this great episode. And we look forward to seeing the results. So
yes,
again,
thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. Mark, you're welcome to hop off. I'll play a couple ads and wish everybody a great day.
See ya.
Take care. All right. Hope everybody enjoyed that show. We'll run a couple ads here and let you go on your way.
At Weston A. Price Foundation, we're dedicated to restoring nutrient-dense, farm-fresh foods to the human diet. We look to ancient food and health practices for clues on how to live our healthiest, most vibrant lives today. Join the mission and check out our exclusive membership details at westonaprice.org. As a member, you'll receive our quarterly journal on wise traditions in food, farming, and the healing arts, our annual shopping guide, monthly access to private Q&A sessions with experts, consultations on state laws, regulations, and policies, including food freedom legislation, and so much more. Weston A. Price Foundation. Let's return to wise, traditional foods.
So just share the screen a little bit here quickly. So again, we offer these incredible opportunities for all of our audience to be able to learn about what a food forest and what permaculture can do for you and your property or your school or your church or orphanage or prison or any location where there's some space, we can get growing food. And at this time, as we continue to see rising food prices, we know that there's so many genetically modified organisms, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, name your chemical, being sprayed on our stuff. Plus, we've got the food security issues overall. What better time than to start growing food utilizing permanent agriculture, permaculture? It just makes logical sense. But if you want to learn all about it, you can invest 30 minutes of your time and sit down with a certified permaculture designer to learn about what's possible for you. And from there, make a great choice on how to proceed getting a food production system built on your property. So head over to foodforestabundance.com, get yourself registered for your free 30-minute strategy session. It's that nice green book now button. And from there, get yourself set up to spend 30 minutes with a designer and have a great time. So thank you again. Really appreciate everybody tuning in, joining us on another incredible episode of the Jim Gale Show. And we'll be back again Monday with our friend from the Highly Optimized podcast. We're going to have a great conversation with our buddy from Highly Optimized and look forward to that awesome show. Wishing everybody a great weekend. If you're Canadian, I think you got a long weekend ahead. So enjoy it. Have a great day. This show's officially over.